Hey everybody, July 23rd, 2025 here with your after hours recap. So what can we say? Market led up by the banks today. JP Morgan, a few days ago you were kind of having a little bit bigger of a pullback right into the 20. And it's funny, when something is super bullish, this is kind of what they look like. They'll make a nice little move up. They'll start to surf and hang out right on the 20, and then they'll finally push out. This one kind of reminded me a little bit of, totally unrelated, but LEU, right? You have a really nice move up. You come right into the 20. You kind of start to surf it, hold it, and then you push out off of the 20. JP Morgan, very, very similar in that regard. And then a new 52-week, really a new all-time high for a JP Morgan. Very, very nice. Led up by another Citigroup, led up by, what was the other one? Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America. I mean, just really nice action across the banking sector. You had Google come out on earnings and reaffirm their CapEx spend, which was awesome for AVGO, who is, I think, 10% of their revenue comes from Google. I could be mistaken. I'll have to look into that again, but I'm pretty sure a good chunk of AVGO's CapEx, or really, not should I say CapEx, earnings come from Google. Again, I will look into that and kind of double, triple check just to make sure I'm not saying something totally out of my ass. But AVGO in after hours, Google reaffirms their CapEx spend, $85 billion if I'm not mistaken, and then you go from 283 to 295 and a new all-time high for AVGO. Seems like 300 is a stone's throws away and more than likely coming for this name. NVIDIA also really liked that news from Google about the reaffirming their CapEx spend. And this one as well, effectively out right towards an all-time high. A lot of stocks kind of had this action where you had a little bit of an ugly down day and a bounce back. There were some stocks that, did something similar and bounced back nicely, and then some other ones that have earned their right to digest, like a Roblox, where you were kind of following it up with a day two, and then towards the end of the day, just a super V-shaped recovery bounce, similar to what we've been seeing this entire move up for Roblox and many, many other names. Otherwise, like I said, I thought fairly nice action from the banking names, fairly nice action from the semiconductors. It's going to be hard to take a market down when those two groups are acting awesome. You had some auction for electricity, I think it was yesterday. I don't remember exactly what it was, but GEV, these things have like massive, massive demand. And then again, pretty good earnings, big ramp up, big pickup in volume. GEV has just been a monster from one earnings to the next. And I got to kind of look at the news, but it came out last night. But effectively, they've got big demand from, all the AI data center players, for electricity. And, you get GEV with a pretty nice move. You get a really nice comeback from my Oklo, which was nice. At one point in the day, this thing's selling off kind of hard, but it ended up closing well. So that was nice. And ultimately, just pretty nice action in the market. You kind of had a little bit more of an unwind in some of these more speculative names, like an Open Door after a pretty insane move up. Bitcoin was effectively flat today. Now, I will say it is starting to lag quite a bit. MSTR, you had a pretty nasty move down a few days ago, digesting and then a breakdown. Meanwhile, Bitcoin, in my opinion, is acting a whole lot better. Ethereum's acting better, Solana's acting better, XRP's acting better, the crypto space is acting really well, and you get a bit of a lagging move in MSTR. I don't know if that's foretelling of anything, but in 2021, it did something similar, and obviously we all kind of know how that ended. But again, I don't really want to be bearish on crypto because it is effectively at an all-time high. Plus, I'm long IBIT, so being optimistic when things are acting that well is really good. Tesla, not so great on earnings. Netflix, kind of a pain in the ass on earnings recently, and then follow through, losing the 50 simple moving average today. That is taking Spotify with it, but ultimately, it's still a pretty dang good market. despite, a few of these, earnings names not acting so well. NOW on the flip side acted fantastic. So, you kind of got to take the good with the bad at the moment, and there is a lot of good. The Russell, the IWM, is outperforming the NASDAQ, and I believe that that's probably going to stay true so long as positioning stays how it is, which they are super short Bitcoin for some odd reason, and small and large speculators are very short the Russell. Meanwhile, they are very long the NASDAQ, and the NASDAQ underperformed today. So that doesn't mean that we cannot go higher. In fact, we did go higher, and we did make an all-time high in after hours. So we will kind of see and take it day by day. Commodities rested today. Gold and silver took a little bit of a rest, but the rest of the metals look pretty damn good. And really, there's not a ton to complain about. I did cut my Tesla before the close, so that actually panned out to be a really smart idea. I still have my longs in ARK, still have my long in CCL, and this thing is another new high. DraftKings, we will see if this thing can clear 45. I do have this from a little bit lower. Still long IBIT, still long Oklo, and still long Toast. So really nothing wrong with the market right now, and we will just continue to take it day by day and see if we can get ourselves repositioned on the long side. On the flip side of that coin, I do want to make sure that I'm being thoughtful of how much exposure I pack on into the market at this juncture, because of how extended we really are without a real pullback or without longer consolidation. And honestly, I want to see more consolidation through price, not just time. In other words, I'd like to see the market actually pull back, check back 3, 5, 7%. I know that sounds insane considering how strong things are, but it just is what it is. Typically the best longs come after corrections, not after 30% moves for the NASDAQ. That does not mean we can't go higher, and that does not mean that I won't be trying more longs. That just means that it's been a little choppy, and I want to be a little bit more on the thoughtful side before I go slamming on a bunch of new exposure. I want to see my current exposure continue to work before I go and buying some more stuff. But I'll scan tonight. I will see kind of what's holding up well and what's not, and then make a contingency plan for both sides of the market tomorrow, and we'll just take it from there. So hopefully I will see you guys during pre-market prep, and enjoy the rest of your evenings. Cheers.